DC18 Coral City. Soul-touching and life-enhancing stories. Coral City. Far, far below the surface of a ceaseless ocean was a beautiful place called Coral City. In this city of coral, each and every coral house was of a different color: red, yellow, blue, green, pink, or orange. Every color was present in every hue. Oysters, clams, kongs, and other types of shelled sea animals had attached their shells to the walls and roofs of the houses. When all the shells opened their pearly inside in the morning, it created a glowing rainbow above the city of coral. During the magical nights above the coral city floated stars, uncountable, brilliant stars. It was an enchanting and mystical place, in which the inhabitants lived eternally, without being disturbed by time and other uncomfortable matters. Everybody who lived in Coral City was either a princess or prince, but they all had a role and duty to perform to ensure perfect harmony. Added to all this splendor and beauty was the daily parade of the inhabitants, which was the highlight of the day. Each creature of the ocean moved as their bodies would permit them to. Each creature wore its own color and combinations of color. They paraded around the city streets, which always led up towards the high, white, sandy mountain at the north end of the city. A large castle stood on top of the mountain, the home of Rhonda, their king. King Rhonda loved peace, wisdom, and kindness, because he loved and practiced these things. He was greatly loved by all his subjects. When King Rhonda's subjects had problems or had some questions, they came to him for his renowned wisdom, his love, and simple advice. And the ocean creatures always followed Rhonda's advice without any question. Unfortunately, every creature had to leave this divine realm for a period of time. This was part of growing up, for one could only really appreciate life in Coral City when one would have experienced another world, in which time and uncomfortable and challenging things were its nature. The creatures were transformed into man and had to live in the realm of man for a while. Princess Jade, a mermaid, and Prince Joma, a seahorse, had been called to the castle. When they arrived at the castle, on the white sandy mountain, they were shown into the majestic throne chamber and asked to wait. They were seated by the chamberlain in two large shelled chairs, each chair adjusted to the particular shape of the creature that sat in them. Princess Jade and Prince Joma spent the time they had to wait looking at the many wonders surrounding them. Their surroundings were truly amazing. They seemed to outdo the magnificence and magic of the city itself. Through the coral walls, dressed with diamonds and pearls and emeralds, rubies and crystals, streamed light that seemed to disappear into the sparkling sand of the floor. The colorful lights seemed to hang in the air like fog from an ocean, and then the playful lights would whirl away into the distance. And then sometimes the light played on their bodies, on the bodies of princess and the prince, making them look like mythical beings, and suddenly the light would shoot away into the nothingness. Soft music began to play when the king arrived, like harps and other string instruments. The princess and the prince got up and bowed to their king. He nodded and smiled, perhaps a little sadly. King Rhonda went to the huge crystal throne and sat down, He motioned for the two subjects to be seated again. "O King Rhonda, how does all this beauty exist in this room? I thought that the city was the most beautiful place in the world, but this is—" And before Princess Jade spoke her next word, the king answered, "This is the place for princesses and princesses who have become kings and queens by having achieved unconditional love, total wisdom, and unreserved kindness. Princess Jade, this room is merely an entrance to another world inside this castle, and the beauty of which is far more than what you see here now. All this is but a spark of the beauty in that other world, and to enter this wondrous realm one must pass the test, so to speak. But we are not going to talk about this, for I have sent for you to announce that your time in the city is over," the king said. The great feeling they both were enjoying left, and both creatures gasped and looked wonderingly to each other. "What do you mean, leave Coral City?" "You will be, by the great ocean power, transformed into human beings, a man and a woman, and you will be placed on an island in the world of man, where you will have to live until the time you are called." But, stuttered Jorma and Jade at the same time. "There is no but. You know that this is part of living in Coral City," answered the king. "Your life will not be easy on this island, an adventure so to say, but there are several important things I wish you to remember while experiencing the world of man. While you are a man and a woman, you must never forget this place. Oh, I do not mean that you have to remember the city, but you must remember the love and kindness that is felt in this city. Also, do not forget your king and his love for you. Keep these things in mind." "Yes, of course, King Rhonda," said Prince Jorma, "but how will we remember that when we are man and gone from the ocean?" King Rhonda smiled at them, said, "Little ones, you must never forget that I will be guiding you. You just need to take the time to listen to that inner voice. This inner voice I will place right now inside your mind, a spot located in between your physical eyes." The king placed a tiny piece of radiant coral, which he took from the inside of his forehead, into the foreheads of the princess and the prince. As soon as he had placed the tiny radiant piece of coral on their forehead, it disappeared inside their skull. "We are grateful for this, king, but how will we know that we are living right?" "When you are in doubt about any action, you will find the answer. Just listen to that inner voice," replied the king. "But why are we being punished, King Rhonda?" "Remember, no but. Oh, no, little ones, you are not being punished. Do try to understand that it must be done. But punished? No, not punishment. An adventure. An adventure that could get you through this entrance to that special world I just talked about," answered the king. "When you don't live the adventure well, you will have to continue living additional adventures in the realm of man until you can come back to Coral City. But when you achieve that unconditional love, total wisdom, and reserved kindness I spoke about, you can end up in that special world. I hope I will see you soon back in the city or here in this room. Good luck, my children." When Prince Jorma and Princess Jade left the castle, all the city creatures were gathered in the streets to see them off on their new and wondrous adventure. In the streets beautiful chiming music was playing, bells were ringing, bubbles rose cheerfully in the water. As the prince and the princess ascended, carried on these bubbles into the darker water above the city, the crowds shouted their goodbye, and then Jorma and Jade were gone. When the two entered the dark water above the city, they both fell into a deep sleep and were transformed by the great ocean power. Prince Jorma's long nose began to shorten, and his body and tail changed into a muscular body with strong legs. Princess Jade's fish tail began to lose its scales and separated into two long graceful legs. All this happened while the two were gently floating towards the surface. The calm ocean washed the two youngful humans onto a beautiful beach of an island in the realm of man. Awaking, they both laughed. "Jorma, we fell asleep after swimming." "Yes, we did. Didn't we, Jade?" The young couple, being in their 20s, thought that they had fallen asleep on the beach and talked about the same dream they had had, a dream about a world far beneath the ocean's surface. Later, a longing would grow in them, seeking for a place they kept seeking in their dreams. But now there was only the blue sky, with white clouds floating above. The breeze of the ocean cooled their bodies and was moving the leaves in the tropical trees. Waves with funny heads rolled in and over each other, playing under the young couple's body. While they lay there, the waves became stronger and tossed them about. Both laughed loudly and joyfully. One wave, larger than the others, just before it would have come their way, swept up and then went over a mound of sand into the lagoon. Suddenly there was a noise, squawks and chirps. The peace of thousands of birds was disturbed. Like fiery arrows, colorful reds, blues, greens, and yellows shot into the sky. Seeing no further danger, the birds flew back to the trees once more as the wave rolled back home to the ocean, leaving only the damp shadow of its path on the sand. Behind the lagoon stood the mountains that made up the center of the serene island. Dark purple shadows played amongst the greens of the trees and bushes, turning to paler blues and mauves. There were coconut palms, banana trees, breadfruit, and many other things to eat on the island. The water in the lake near the hills before the mountains was sparkling clean and cold to taste. The pineapples and coconuts provided a change in drinks. Walking back from the lagoon by the ocean, where they had taken a break from the daily intense duties, they climbed up to their tropical home, made between several trees that stood close together, and continued their daily chores. Some months ago, a disease had taken the lives of all the adults on the island, and they were taking care of all the babies and children that had lost their parents. Possibly the immune system of the young island inhabitants and that of Jade and Jorma had been strong enough to not have been affected by the disease. They had had no time to think about the past and had no time for anything other than to take care of many children. After the epidemic, their life had changed, and it had been very hard to keep up with it all, and it had even been devastating, and the only time they had taken for themselves was the swim and the nap on the beach. Only after that afternoon it all became more bearable for them. They were able to keep the balance and perspective in things, because they often spoke about that dream that both of them had at the beach, and which at times entered their dreams during the night. Connected to this dream and from deep inside of them, they received the strength to take care of this seemingly impossible task. They also understood that they were not to change the island, that they must leave everything as much as possible as it was, and that the most important thing for them was to respect and love each other, the children, and their environment. They reminded each other of the dream as much as possible, for when they thought about the peace and harmony they had seen in this dream, it instantly created peace and harmony in that moment of their life. After that special moment on the beach, when they had questions, their fingers would automatically go to their forehead, or they would go into a small cave close to their treehouse, enjoy the silence, and received their answers. They lived for many years on the island, kept this dream alive while the children grew up, and while a new community grew, a community in which the both of them were respected for their love, care, wisdom, and kindness. They learned to serve without any reward in mind and lived a fulfilling life. Then one day, when their hair had become white and their feet were moving slower, they heard an inner voice calling them to the beach by the lagoon. As both of them were sitting and staring at the ocean, it suddenly became as quiet as in the cave, and in an instant the ocean waves became bigger and bigger, but both of them seemed not to be afraid and even had smiles on their faces. And then, at one moment, a big wave came and took the both of them. After the initial rolling under the water without getting in panic, it all of a sudden became very, very peaceful. They took each other's hand, fell asleep, while slowly descending through the different ocean layers and being transformed by the great ocean power back into a mermaid and a seahorse. And both of them woke up, being in front of King Rhonda in the majestic throne chamber. Now they understood that their dream had not been a dream. "Come, my children, let's go to the world I promised you. You have earned it," spoke King Rhonda. "Both of you are worthy to be king and queen, and granted to live forever amongst real royalty, under the protection of the King of Kings." King Rhonda led them to a special door, opened it, and both of them entered the world that didn't need any dream, for this was the only real reality that was not affected by any mortal reality, the ocean of love. What the story could bring us. Life in creation is an adventure with many experiences. It is like us as spiritual beings visiting another world. Isn't the visitor someone who behaves properly and is conscious of when he is visiting another one's home? Creation is like visiting another home, and this gift and experience must be well respected. The creator and provider of these experiences is pure love, and this love will never die, for the true love within all of us is from that same source. When the Creator decides that it's time for us to return, He will provide the right circumstances.